All right, welcome back to the broadcast as we decipher some more on the conversation of politics in the country. So much is happening, and therefore we are left with no choice but to equally weigh in on the same, especially at this point where the country is headed for a general election. It's really, really important that we get the views of pundits and leaders and, of course, the common mwananchi, so that moving forward we get to understand where we land ourselves. Still in studio, Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, Dr. Eseli Simiu, Member of Parliament, Tongaren, and Dr. Eric Mutai, who is a gubernatorial aspirant of Kericho County. And gentlemen, yes, you speak of tyranny of numbers. I want us to shelve that conversation for a moment because, well, if we start on that direction, then you understand how many Kenyans will feel like, you know what, this is not proper. And I mean, sometimes we want to question the legislators because we don't understand how then some of these laws actually sail through in their presence, and yet they purport to represent the people who elected them in Parliament. You want to say something? Yes.
On the issue of the laws that pass through Parliament?
Right.
As I said earlier, when Parliament is dominated so entirely by the executive party, then some bad things can happen, and that's what was happening. Remember, there was some time when there were the Security Laws Amendment, where it was such a volatile session in Parliament, and if Gakuya can remember, until one member was pouring water on the then speaker, and we resisted, but eventually the laws were pushed through. But it was saved by the courts rejecting some of those amendments. Right. But the reason why they were sailing through was because of this overwhelming number of the what I would call the ruling party members in the House. So it is imperative to realize that a bad law will be brought to Parliament and might pass, depending on the majorities and the minorities. Yeah. So the person you blame is the one who actually brought that law in the first place. Because if you are crafting a law, as they keep on saying, it should be a law that you are comfortable with when it's in the hands of your opponent. Yes. But in this case, laws are being brought for convenience of that moment, and that can't help. You should formulate laws for posterity, not for that moment, and that's the problem we've been facing. Right now, there's a bit of a difference. After the handshake, there's been a bit of a difference, so that we are able to debate some laws before we pass them and reject some, because now at least we can have some debate. But previously, there was hardly any debate, because they'll have a few people already lined up to support and do whatever. Then by acclamation they pass it. Even if you insist on division, you don't get it. So and I think Kenyans should be awake to this, that our multi-party system is also good. And I fear when the DP goes around telling people, remove all these small parties, it's dangerous. It's dangerous because with our current parliament, the way it is, I think if we have an overwhelming number from the ruling party, we'll get the same scenario that we're getting. Okay. Well, you didn't want to revisit it, but I want to be very clear here. I have a lot of respect for that young man, Echesa. Right. Because he's a young man who came from a poor background, and he's pulled himself by his bootstraps to get to where he is. And I think we must give him credit for that. But I still insist he was totally unsuitable for the cabinet. Especially was going to be the one sitting at the table on behalf of the Western region. So I think that was, to me, that was an indication of what they thought of the Luya people. Yes. So that even if they go to Western pretending that now they are thinking about you, the past actions already tell you what they think about you. So I have a lot of respect for Echesa. Because somebody from his background to get where he has gotten was not an easy task. What do you make of... But for the suitability for the cabinet, I differ there. I don't think he was the right person.
All right, let's talk about the darling of the Western region. And what Jimmy Gakuya says that, you are a person who believes in the ideologies of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And it has appeared like it's been a backyard for Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Do you foresee a scenario that there's going to be a shift this time around?
Well, it depends on how people sell their ideologies. But as I told you, I'm smart enough not to fall for fraud. like I told you what I think this bottom-up thing is.
Okay.
It's already there in the Constitution. What we need is to
nothing
be
new.
implemented.
Okay.
This guy coming with it has been there for 9 years. The Jubilee government was the one that carried the heaviest task of implementing the Constitution. And I think he cannot run away from the failure to implement the Constitution and now come to the same people who have been impoverished and tell them, now I'll bring bottom up. It's, the Constitution is already bestowed with that.
Okay.
So in fact, the BBI was increasing the amount of allocation to the counties, which is really bottom up.
Okay.
So I think I agree with him that what we need to now work on is how to stop the devolved corruption. If we can stop that devolved corruption. Now, what puts me up off the bottom-up team is that many of them in the bottom-up team have been mentioned in this vice called corruption.
Right.
Many of them. So I fear that it's the right message, but the wrong message.
Okay. All right. Well, and the message is here already with us. Hesh, I know you want to say something, but even as you react to the same, let's talk about these cabinet secretaries that are being involved in politics that has left a distaste in the mouths of the members of parliament allied to Tanga, also to speak. They argue that that is not proper. And couple it up with this one of the speaker, and conversations are on that there could be that feel that, they'd want to root him out of his position. Well, and this again culminating from that side of members of parliament allied to Deputy President William Ruto. What do you make of this?
First of all, allow me just to interject on the last line
statement
by my SG. I happen to have shared the whole 5 good years with him in the health committee. So we know each other very well.
Okay.
And I know he's a very good contributor, and he thinks well of this nation. Otherwise, coming to the element of what we call tyranny of numbers, this is a loom created by democracy. And we cannot kill our democracy roots. The reason why we have what we call health competition is we compete so that you win the majority. And when you win the majority gives you also the numbers to represent.
And therefore they can't be considered. That's
even in those houses, you found out, in fact, when there was an issue of, in US during a petition for the former president, he was saved by the Senate. Because the Senate has the numbers from the Republican. And actually those numbers stood to safeguard his petition. And that's how he won it. Even here, we cannot run out of this, because the numbers of time must dictate. We know we are the one who created these particular policies, and we have given political parties a lot of power in the House. I wish these powers can be eliminated so that the members can be able to perform very independently. The Constitution is very clear, and it purports the independence of the House, of the Parliament. But this doesn't happen, because the people have been muscled and misdirected by the wish of and desire of their parties.
Right.
And sometimes they are whipped to a different direction. Your thought has been this is the right way, but in the middle you are whipped to go the other way. And you have to be at least loyal to your party. This is the biggest problem, the monster in the House, that sometimes you go the wrong direction, very knowingly well that actually you are not, that is not your concerns. I wish the Parliament can be able to give less powers to the parties, political parties, so that the members can be able to deliberate and make decisions within their own decisions without being influenced by the executive or political parties they come from. Coming to the issue to do with the issues of CSAs to participate in what we call active politics, we have seen the Electoral Commission last election taking it a low tone on those CSAs. But currently we have also seen them change their face, and now indicating that in fact it is wrong for those civil servants to participate in active politics. I wish that in fact the law is well taken care of and followed, because if we want to follow the law very clearly, I don't see any single element where a CS should be allowed to perform active politics. Because why do you want a worker who is enjoying public resources to use the public resources to campaign for somebody. I think those offices should be neutral because you are serving the whole nation.
Okay.
They are not serving a party. Once you are appointed as a CS, you cease to become from a certain party because even though you are being appointed by the ruling party, that ceases when you assume to that position because you serve the nation. That's why you are given a full ministerial which serves the whole nation across board, every side.
Right.
And therefore, if you don't allow the other civil servant to participate, then CSs cannot be able to be excluded from this package. And therefore, to myself, I would say the CSs should desist to participate in politics. If you didn't want to participate and take side, then resign and take side.
What if then, at least as alleged, then the Speaker of the House is probably working in tandem with what this other side that argues CSS should not participate in active politics? And the question then would be, when he is working with them, it's not a bad thing. But when other people are working with others, then it becomes a bad thing.
Well, we've been treated to a lot of drama in this country, where at every turn that avails itself, we assault the Constitution as much as possible. And this is where I agree with Mheshimiwa James that, CS is elevated beyond the community, beyond the political party. He's enjoying his office courtesy of the people of... So that is a person,
the taxpayer.
That's a public servant paid and funded by the taxpayer. And that is why where Esedi had said that you'll not have this problem of this yes is coming from here, so he develops his region more than the other one. So what we need then is to really be faithful to what the Public Servants Act indicates and what the Constitution speaks to this, that the CSS should be above bar. They should just do their jobs as public servants and be devoted to their jobs and not campaigning. We have had, Rita, a litany of very arrogant CSS. The reason today why we are grappling, for example, with the attempt to reform education, which in its own self could even have been a good thing, the CPC. But because of very arrogant CSS, we've not had an opportunity for Kenyans and even Parliament to have a discussion on how best some of this can be put in place. Because as CS comes here, he just wants to push his thing through. And he stops then being a person's or a people's servant, but then working on the whims of particular interest. We've had, for example, I've seen Jane of CSS accompanying political party leaders of some other affiliates, very bluntly saying that this is where I want to imagine now, when you go to a place where that party is not very popular as a CS, to what extent will people trust you that you are going to implement on them? So I think it is very annoying. It's very sad that we are at that level. To the Speaker of the County Assembly, there is one speaker that I respect and I really admire. That guy called Marende, who steered this country at a time of deep controversy, at the time when the nation were on the verge of collapse, and the Parliament then were heated. We watched these when we were out there and we could see the proceedings. This is one person that really took the status of Parliament to a different level altogether. But then Muturi has done his bidding for the president. And he was okay when he was doing that. When he suspected now that he's working with maybe the deputy president, then issues begins to arise. But what we need to understand is that the speaker should be a neutral arbitrator at all occasions. He should not be seen to be either in this side or that side, because that will also undermine the workings of Parliament. Much as we are alive that we are going towards an election next year, but he still remains the speaker until a particular point. And to me, I think he should still remain that neutral arbitrator. He should still remain above bar, because there are times when the country really needs the hands of a good speaker. When people were sneaking in very bad laws on security and other laws, if we then had a very good speaker and other issues, he could be able to bring the members together and say, look here, guys, you may enjoy. I come from the majority. I come from the majority, but you see, you may enjoy this thing, but you are not in power forever. Can we make laws that outstand our time? That even when you're, like now, and we charge guilty even us from UDA, because some of our members were actively participated in the precision of those particular laws. But when the cake turned and it became very sour, we suffer the most.
Right.
So I think it's a lesson that we all learn, that power is temporary. You are there today, tomorrow you're not there. So at each and every given time, we must make laws, we must make intentions that would last our time and last for generations, and which is fair to everyone in this country.
All right, let's quote.
I think Marende's performance, to me, reflects on Raila Amolo Odinga.
Okay.
Because he was the boss of ODM, which presented Marende as the speaker. And once he became the speaker, the ODM party allowed him the leeway to make decisions. And that's how he ended up making such sound decisions in what I would call a post-conflict parliament. So I think to me it reflects, because he was an ODM person, and yet he reached a point where the ODM party itself freed him to be able to manage parliament, and he managed it effectively. Now, for the current speakers, there are issues that go through my mind. They say that a speaker, when a speaker ceases being a speaker when a new speaker is elected. And the speaker has got huge benefits on retirement. So if you intend to go into elective politics, that means you have to resign and then go into those elective positions.
Yeah.
Now, if that is the case and they resign, does it mean they are still entitled to those benefits? Perhaps somebody like Muturi, because this is his second term as a speaker, might be argued that he retired the first term. So now he's serving the second term is when he'll have to resign. But somebody like Speaker Lusaka, this is his first term as a speaker. So if he resigns to go and run for governor, does it mean he'll still be entitled to those benefits? So those are the conflicting things. And on the part of Speaker Muturi, I think he's walking a tightrope, in the sense that once you show any leanings, then it's difficult to be impartial in the House. But then, still, speakers have always been elected from one side of the House, and they're supposed to be impartial. So I still believe he can still rise to the occasion and be impartial while dispensing the work of a speaker. As for cabinet secretaries participating in campaigning, I've kept on saying this: Chebukati, wake up. There's something wrong with that IEBC.
Okay.
Because at one time you allowed it, now you say it's not allowed, and the same Chebukati has not even been strong enough, come out strongly since 2018, because presidential campaign started in 2018.
Yes.
When the DP started campaigning. He never came out to say, no, it's not time for campaign. Even now, he's not even coming out to tell people that, hey, it's not time for campaign. He's not coming out strongly at all on that matter. He's silent. So I think there is either Chebukati fears exposing himself for the truth, because if you are really well grounded in your work, you should be able to come up and say, look, dear Kenyans, the time for campaign will start at this time to this time. Now is not the time. But we've had campaigns throughout the country since 2018. It has virtually people are busy because of this campaigning since 20. Where was this Chebukati? I think, to me, IEBC is a problem. IEBC is a problem because they are supposed to be the police and the arbiters of electoral processes in this country. Has he really played his role? Because even if he talks now about the CSS, why has he allowed this campaigning to start so early? Why has he allowed this voter primary starting so early? Why has he allowed it?
Right.
So to me, I think there is a big problem with IEBC, and the buck stops at Chebukati's desk. Now, the issue of this CSS campaigning or CSS doing whatever, the BBI was solving that matter. Because if this CSS came from Parliament, which needs a constitutional change to have that happen,
then they're allowed to politic.
Then they would politic without any, because it's not possible to stop this CSS from politicking.
Is it?
These are part of the development of this country, and economics and politics are one and the same. So it's difficult to have the CSS shut up. It's difficult. So the best solution was for them to come from Parliament, so that like my colleague has said that some CSS are so arrogant. The reason why they are arrogant is because they don't owe any allegiance to the monarchy, they owe their allegiance to the appointing authority. Yes. But you see, if he's a member of Parliament, he owes allegiance to the people. So that way his arrogance is virtually tame. Because I remember in the 10th Parliament, ministers used to behave themselves because they knew if they misbehaved, quickly will put a motion there to censure them. Right. So they were actually very tame. But this time they are able to be arrogant because one, if, as he said, once you are majority in the House, whoever you appoint as CS will sail through.
Okay.
Yeah, will sail through the House. So that makes them arrogant.
Okay.
But if they were coming from the House, that means they have been actually elected by people who went and voted for them. Then that way, they have some responsibility to the people. Right now, the only responsibility is the appointing authority.
Well, yeah. All right. And Rashid Swale is watching. Says, please ask the guests that are allied to Tanga Tanga why, when Raila and NASA complained about CSs, it was Ruto and other Jubilee team members who castigated them and said, wachane na mawaziri kabisa. What just changed between their position in 2017 and now that it's 2021? In 30 seconds as we close, gentlemen.
Okay. One to the viewer, thank you for that. Two wrongs will not make a right.
Okay.
And as we close, I think maybe my last word is, we really look forward in this nation that we build very independent structures. We have a vibrant national government that takes care of the state, the Kenyan project.
Yes.
And as we move down to the devolution, which is really the biggest thing that happened to this nation, it's about time that we really push the economy down to the people so that we begin to have devolution really work for our people in terms of protecting SMEs, in terms of growing businesses, instead of solving the problem of youth unemployment and even health crisis in our country. Bottom-up provides this approach and the way to go, and the future of this nation is safe in the hands of Dr. William Ruto. Thank you so much.
All right, Mahesh, as we come to you to close.
Rida, let me just wind up by saying our constitution, the current constitution order is very clear and very well interpreting about how to go about. And I think it has addressed majority of teething issues that we purport to say that they are not well addressed. And I think that, in fact, when we will have those men and women with Kenyans at heart that will take over the county government with aim to deliver to the society, I think we will be home to go. Because I think even the agenda of bottom-up, even though it's well addressed in the Constitution, it is not really meeting Wanjiku anywhere. Because I think it is the powers of the governor to see and to think on how Akita can be set aside, and then make sure that we empower those who actually are forgotten society down there with those small business that the bottom-up is trying to address. Because the Constitution has no barrier from the governors to do and to have such a kitty at their capacity. I think the other kitties that are available there are not even well taken care of, because we have what we call youth fund, we have issues to do with the women fund, and they are not working well because actually there are a lot of bureaucracies that cannot give that Wanjiku food, because when you ask for collateral and you are peasant businesswoman or businessman, where do you go for these collaterals? I think those barriers, if a government can come in and think on how we can be able to remove such barriers and allow Wanjiku to have access to these funds without a lot of bureaucracy, I think it will be the funds will be reachable to, because these funds come to the constituency. And you find at the end of the end of the year, financial year, these funds are taken back. The reason why the conditionality cannot meet the applicants, and therefore the kitty is just lying there, and because of the bureaucracy, it's not working and meeting the problems that Wanjiku is facing down there.
All right, Josephat tells you, Mheshimiwa, that BBI is a fraud and bottom-up is the way to go. If not so, then let you people present a better solution.
The better solution is already there in the Constitution. We don't need a better solution. The better solution is already there. That's why I'm calling bottom-up a fraud.
Okay.
I would like to say this, that Kenyans be aware of the Stalin response, Joseph Stalin response.
Okay.
I think you've seen it a lot in social media, where Stalin took a chicken, plucked off the feathers, and let it roam around in pain, then threw some maize and the chicken still came back. Kenyans be aware of the Stalin effect. The people who have plucked off your chickens and made you impoverished are now coming with a little pieces of maize and you are running there. The Stalin effect. Be aware and don't accept it. That's a bottom up is a monumental fraud. It's cheating you. They are throwing a few goodies here at market centers that you